I am very pleased to welcome Keith Edwards to our show, Democratic strategizer, YouTuber, TikToker, Blue Skyer, Substacker. He's everywhere, and he writes some really interesting stuff, which is why he's everywhere, because people really are interested in his content. He's talked to Adam Schiff. He has given advice into how to survive the next Trump administration. He's even did an interesting post about the different platforms he's on and what he's learned about them. Keith, welcome to our show.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you so much for having me on.
You know, I just realized I've given you a big intro. That's a lot to live up to, but I don't want you to be nervous. We are very gentle.
I don't think I'm nervous.
Good.
No, I mean, that's very sweet of you. Thank you for that intro.
There's so much that you've written about that I want to talk about. Let's start with your How to Survive Trump 2.0 advice. Would love to hear that.
Well, I think the main takeaway from that piece is the way to survive something is not to avoid it, but to get through it. And I think what we learned, I think one lesson we can take from COVID and maybe even the first Trump administration is that when we as a culture are put through a lot of pain and grief, we have to process it and we have to actually acknowledge that it's happening. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the problems I feel like we're experiencing right now is that no one is kind of just saying like, this is going to suck for a little while. And part of the piece is acknowledging that this is going to be really hard and not sugarcoating it. Because I think when you understand what moment you're in, you're better prepared to fight in it. And I think there's a lot of avoidance happening, and I do touch on that in the piece too, where it's okay to like say, all right, I can only give myself 20 minutes a day for the news or whatever it is, but can't avoid it because this is happening. It's real. It's bad, but we make it worse if we don't avoid it and we try to go around it because there's no going around this. We have to get through it.
Sadly, there is not. There, though I did see, who was it? When Trump first got elected, somebody posted that, oh, I know, it was one of the cruise lines. They offered a 4-year cruise, and their marketing was, you know, get on the boat, and when you finally get off the boat, it'll all be over, and you won't have had to live through it. And it, you know, it was a little pricey, but I could see the appeal.
I guess, but I mean, I'm an American through and through, and I just feel like Americans don't like being told what to do, and 2, understand when injustice is happening. And we're about to go through a process where a minority party is going to try to inflict its opinions on the majority. And I think Americans don't like that. And so we are going to have to stand up. So, yes, maybe a 4-year cruise would be nice and like, you know, in some sort of imagination. But I think there's also a lot of dignity to be had in staying here and actually putting up a fight because we need to fight.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I want to talk to you. Once a month, I do a media segment with, you know, there's a guy joins me who used to be an editor at the Sun-Times and the Tribune and works for Courier newsrooms and has done stuff for Northwestern University. The woman has a Substack. She writes op-eds. She was one of the first women to lead a newsroom in Chicago television. And we look at how the media is doing what it's doing, what works, what doesn't work. In the spirit of that segment, I would like you to talk about, I've lost the link to it now because I've got so many darn tabs open, but you did, I don't know if it was one of your Substacks, where you actually talked about what you do and how you do it. and the different platforms and how they're different. I thought that was really fascinating. Share a little bit of that with the audience, if you would.
For sure. So just some background. I originally started just having a Twitter following, and when Elon Musk bought it, I immediately knew that the time was ticking on the viability of that platform. So I had like 130,000 followers there at the time. I now have nearly 1 million across all the platforms. And that happened within the course of, let's say, like 15 months. So November of 2023. And I did that by leveraging video content mainly. But there's a huge difference between a tweet and an Instagram post and a YouTube video. And I started YouTube in June of last year.
Is your YouTube channel called No Lies Detected?
It's just my name, Keith Edwards.
Okay.
It's a Keith Edwards show. But on YouTube, I just hit 300,000 subscribers yesterday, actually. And so there is a huge difference in these platforms. And I think it's important for folks who are interested in communicating online to understand that, especially if you're a politician or if you're an organizer. It's really important to know that, what works on YouTube doesn't necessarily work on Instagram. One example is that on Instagram, if you're doing like a reel, right, you want to really front load the idea. You got to get the most interesting bit out within the first 5 seconds. Otherwise, someone can swipe away. YouTube, people are sitting down. I think more than half of my audience watches it on their TV. So they are like ready. They are primed to consume content. And so they don't need a quick hit. You can actually, it's more of like it's just more of a dance on YouTube where you're trying to you want to get people invested within the first 30 seconds, but you're not trying to give away all the information at once. You're trying to really lead them on through a story. And that's when you're doing YouTube the best. So there is a huge difference between all these platforms.
I post very little on Instagram, but let me just offer you this. If you have a dog and you're holding your dog or petting your dog, that I think that people will give you a little bit more time before they click away, because I believe that Instagram was made for dogs. Humans, they do okay, but it's really a dog medium. I'm pretty sure.
I've never, I have a dog. It's so funny. I have a dog and I never use her in my content. People don't even know she exists. Just like the total
huge
opposite
mistake.
Dog.
Huge. I give you this for free. I give you this for free. It was recently, it was recently announced, the J.B. Pritzker, our governor here in Illinois, helped organize a Democratic governor call to Chuck Schumer, who I think we both have from time to time felt was a little bit asleep at the wheel. And the Democratic governors were like, you got to get out there. You got to do things. You got to start talking. And one of the things that Chuck Schumer apparently told them was, well, we're going to try to get better with social media. Cory Booker is really good at it. And he put together a PowerPoint presentation for the Democratic members of the Senate. Like, this is TikTok. You should probably post 3 or 4 times a day. This is Facebook. This is Instagram. And I thought to myself, dear God and heaven, what, I know that it has been pointed out by you and by me that a lot of our legislators are super senior citizens. But I thought, dear God, I don't have to be out there. I'm not running for office. But even I know how the basics of social media work, for God's sake. And I'm an old fart. So what's going on?
I mean, that is the dire situation we find ourselves in. I mean, I think ultimately speaking, if it were 20 years ago, let's say we were just in a different timeline where authoritarianism wasn't knocking at the door, perhaps infiltrating our government. It was probably for the best that our lawmakers are not great at social media. That's probably good. It's probably a good thing for democracy, right? Unfortunately, right now, we find ourselves in a position where attention is the biggest weapon we can have right now against Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And the best way to get attention is to not only know how social media works, but know what to say on social media to make sure it travels as quickly as possible. And so that Cory Booker's, I mean, my God, I hope that was just one slide, because it's so not about, like, that's such a 2009 way of talking on social media. Like you talk about, like, you post on Facebook twice a day, on Instagram once a day. That's just not how it works, first off. It's just not how it works. I post on YouTube 5 times a day sometimes. I post on Instagram 6. It just depends, but it's not even it's about what you're saying and knowing the strategies that are correct for the platform. So it's not great. Ultimately, it's not great. Chris Murphy yesterday went live on Instagram. And God bless them. They're trying. They're trying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you did an interview recently with Adam Schiff. I think Adam Schiff is a very bright man, but I think he embodies the Democratic legislator as college professor, someone who, whether he means to or not, always, I get the feeling he's looking down his nose at me, that he is either a little smarter than me or he wants me to think he's a little smarter than me, which is what a lot of people say, that sort of professorial attitude is what's turned off a lot of the blue-collar voters, this idea that somehow Democrats are the elites. So having given you all of my prejudices, tell me, when you talked to Adam Schiff, what you came away with.
Well, first off, I don't think your characterization of the Democratic Party is wrong. It is increasingly more and more a party that is insular, that is telling other people how to act and how to feel, and uses shame as a way to try to control people. So I get that. Also, we just use language that no one uses within the party itself, like real people don't use. And I am a non-college educated white man, so I understand their critiques. But I think Adam Schiff talks like a politician, which is not bad, right?
No,
again, like,
that is bad. That's bad,
It is
Keith.
bad now. It is bad now.
I want somebody like, God love Bernie Sanders. He can say, this is wrong. People should have health care. This is wrong. I understand when he talks like that. He doesn't try to say, well, let's talk about the ins and outs of policy. I want to talk about House Bill 4155, which would change the payment plan, the payment scale No, you've lost me. Talk to me about what I care about. I want to be able to afford drugs. I want to be able to stay alive. I want to be able to be healthy. That's the kind of healthcare conversation I want to have. It doesn't mean I'm stupid. It just means that I want to be more plain spoken. Would you say Adam Schiff is plain spoken?
Well, here's the issue with politicians writ large, especially Democrats, is we are extremely risk adverse. And again, like, if this were another timeline, that would be a good thing. You want your politicians to not say things that are stupid or could upset someone or are out of line. It's good to have a filter, but it's that filter that we can maybe not see, but we experience it when someone's talking to us in talking points, or you can tell that they're considering what they're saying before they say it, because no one does that in real life. When you're talking to your friend, no one's filtering what they're saying to you. So I understand. So it is valuable in the before times. It is not valuable now. And I think what Democrats need to learn is that you can make mistakes. And the country has changed quite a bit in how they experience politicians who misspeak or aren't completely scripted and are just shooting from the hip. And it's definitely something that I think we could just try more as a party is lifting up people who speak without scripts, but just speak from their heart. And they're not, like, if you watched AOC on our Instagram Live 2 days ago.
I was just going to say, lift up those people, but except we didn't lift up AOC. We gave Jerry Connolly the spot of ranking member of the Oversight Committee, 74-year-old white man with active cancer. We gave it to him over AOC. And I'm sorry, but with all these protests and all this, somebody told me that there was one either show or statement that Jerry Connolly released. Good for you, Jerry. Maybe you could try just a little bit harder going forward.
Yeah, it's not great to see us kneecapping one of our most innate talents in the Democratic Party. I don't understand that decision. Like you said, like, we do have an issue of we're supposed to be the forward-looking party, but we have more and more people in our government who are not going to be around for the decisions that they're making today. But we're all going to have to live with them. So I would prefer if we had more and more people elected, and especially in positions of power, who actually have some skin in the game, because what they're creating today and the things they're fighting for, they're going to have to live through in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And that just isn't really what's happening right now.
What do you think of the youngest congressman currently serving, Maxwell Frost?
Well, I mean, I want to ask you, because you've kind of clocked this idea of a politician, like the politician speaking, and I kind of feel like he has that. He led a
demonstration to the Treasury building yesterday. He himself took about 50 people over there. And, of course, the security wouldn't let them into the building. But, he got a lot of attention for that. Though, I got to tell you, I don't know if at the age of 28 I would have been up to that task. And please, as you may recall me saying from a few minutes ago, I am myself what I believe the demographic is called old fart. And there is something to be said for maturity and experience and knowing where the bodies are buried and having been around to see different administrations and how they do things. But I feel that there are two kinds of old farts. There are those of us who try to stay abreast of what's going on and try to stay current. And then there are some who seem to just wrap themselves in what they've always done. Sometimes I love our Senator Dick Durbin. He got a lot of federal judges confirmed to lifetime appointments during the Biden administration. That's good. But, so much of it is, this is the way we've always done things. We all wear ties. We all believe in the filibuster. It's the way it's always been. And that's great. And every once in a while, Dick Durbin gets a burr under his saddle, and we see a different Dick Durbin, and he actually speaks out passionately and fights for something. But a lot of the times, he's this real traditionalist. I think Joe Biden was hurt by the fact of all the years he spent in the Senate might have taught him how to get legislation passed. But he was bound by this idea of, we're going to do things the way we've always done because that's how it's always worked, even though that's not the world we're living in now. And I'm not saying that anybody is bad because they are old. I think if you are not constantly hitting your mental refresh button, you're going to get in trouble. And, when you're older, Keith, and you're in the old fart demographic, I hope that you are still as on top of things as you are now.
Well, I mean, me too. I mean, I'm going to be 40 in 2 weeks. Oh, God. So the fact that I can pick up YouTube this late in my life feels good. But to your point, I just think like Jerry Connolly could have been on that committee and AOC could have led it. And what would have been really beautiful is if Jerry Connolly he could have been a mentor to AOC instead of just taking it, I just think, I'm sure there are people that work for you who you mentor, who you inspire, who learn from you. And I wonder why don't we put our young talent up in leadership so that the people who have always been there can show them how best to do it? That would be my suggestion, because knowledge is meaningless if you're not going to pass it down. And so and there's no better way to learn to do something than by the act of doing it. So not only is he kneecapping us right now by being in that position, but he's also kneecapping our future potential, because there are many things that our young leaders won't learn because they're going to have to wait 4, 8, 12 years until they get a chance to maybe get leadership.
I was questioning the decision to vote in Jerry Connolly, and some of my listeners tend to be very, very steeped in politics and very well informed. And they were like, oh, no, Jerry Connolly, you're going to be just amazed by him. He's a real fighter. And I thought, okay, well, I'll back off on making assumptions about what bothers me most is that he has a really serious, very deadly cancer. I've had cancer, and I didn't have a very serious, deadly one. I had one that I was probably going to survive. And let me tell you, I had it at a very young age, and it still kicked my butt. There were days when I couldn't get off the couch. And so I thought, well, I'll sit back and maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. But we're in a huge crisis right now. And, like you talked about Chris Murphy, God love him. Chris Murphy has been out there for weeks screaming his head off about what's going on. And I just haven't seen anything comparable from Jerry Connolly.
I mean, from Jerry Connolly. And yes, having cancer is such a big deal. And I would want him to just focus on that and getting better. And you're right, like the treatments are not fun. They're not a joke. And not only that, but Chuck Schumer, I don't know. Did you see this bill he came out with yesterday? The Stop the Steal bill that is going to recognize that it's illegal for what Elon Musk is doing. Which one problem? First off, it's already illegal. What is a bill going to do that can't pass the Senate or Congress, and even if it were, or the House, and if it were to, the president's not going to sign it.
Yeah.
And, though stop the steal. It's like, what?
Well, that's Congressman Pocan from Wisconsin came out with the Elon Musk bill. And every word of that, it turns out to not stealing our government, not being able to have if you're a government employee, you can't have government contracts. There's a certain value in doing something, even if it's just a publicity stunt. If you need to get media attention for an issue or focus media attention for an issue, or even just look like you're not rolling over. I understand, waging a battle you're going to lose. But it just seems that for Chuck Schumer, who is the leader of the Senate, there should be a plan. He should be gathering up all the Democratic leadership and making a plan. How are we going to fight Trump? Okay, we're going to slow down. We're going to use procedure. We're going to demand a quorum. We're going to demand a roll call vote. We're not going to agree to any cloture votes. I think that would be a better use of his time. But, at least he's doing something. Can we hang on to that, Keith? He's doing something?
I mean, it's like it's the 90s. It's just, this is just not like we are truly in a crisis. I believe, I don't know if you believe this. I believe we are in a crisis situation.
I do too.
There is an unelected billionaire who has brought hackers into the federal government computer system. And we don't know what they're doing. We don't know what they're taking, what code they're changing. Imagine if they went into the Capitol with guns. And they said, either you change these laws or we're shooting. We would say that is an act of terror, right? Well, how is that any different than Elon Musk going into the Treasury saying, let us into these computers, forcing their way in, and taking data and changing code? And so we're doing what? We're putting up a bill It just doesn't. It's just not working for me right now.
Yeah.
And I hate criticizing leaders because they deserve our respect. They've been there a long time, but we are in a crisis situation. Either step up or get out of the way. We have to figure this out.
Yeah. We absolutely have to figure this out. I was talking about that yesterday, that not only are these, I believe there's a group, they range in age from 19 to 25, who have now been introduced as Elon Musk's people to go through all of the websites. And it was reported yesterday that they are changing source code. That means, folks, that they are changing the system so that you're going to have to go through them to get in to that code. And honestly, I was kind of hoping, Keith, that on the way out the door, as all the Treasury leadership was being dismissed, that they would have changed the source code before they left, so that when Elon's kids came in, they couldn't do anything. I know somebody might have gone to jail, but it would have been, I would have done it.
I don't know what. Here's the thing that's scary about this is that I don't even think Trump knows what's happening. So there's an unelected billionaire that is potentially in control of our payments. I think that's a true statement.
Yes.
So it would have been nice if Treasury could have done something else, but I don't know why we let them in. I don't know. It's just so interesting how when you need leaders and it's just everyone's bending over. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It is absolutely 100% crazy. And the heartbreaking thing is, that there are Republicans in elected office who really know that this is crazy and this is awful. And they just don't have the spine of a John McCain, or I'm dating myself now, of a Barry Goldwater to say, yeah, this is my party, but you're wrong and you shouldn't do this and I won't support you in doing this. You'll have to look. To your point, I feel bad criticizing Chuck Schumer, but at least Democrats have a party where that's possible. Yes.
No one can criticize Trump.
Well, they can. Right, they just have to be ready to be, destroyed.
Yeah, they'll be exiled.
Yeah. Keith, this has been so much fun. Thank you for spending time with us and with my audience. Keith's Substack is called No Lies Detected. Find him on YouTube at his name, Keith Edwards. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was just so great. Very nice talking to you.